Today I'm going to talk about legalization of marijuana, recreational or medicinal, either way. How many people know people that are suffering from cancer, AIDS, seizures, muscle spasms, multiple sclerosis, Crohn's, and other debilitating, painful diseases? I know a few. I have muscle spasms myself. But all of those have been proven to be diminished with marijuana. Actually, doctors nationwide are actually coming to the realization that marijuana is affecting their patients more than any other FDA-approved prescription medication has. It helps with not only the chronic symptoms of pain, but also the adverse effects of treatments such as chemotherapy, or even the medicines they're using for treatment. The debate for marijuana or medical marijuana, or the legalization of it, has been going on for years. But a spark actually flew when Dr. Sanjay Gupta, who is this person right here, who is the chief medical correspondent for CNN and also a practicing neurosurgeon, he actually did a documentary called Weed for CNN, where he traveled around the world getting from all different parts of life, trying to figure out patients that have had it, just recreational users, doctors, and everything, and actually came to the conclusion that it wasn't as bad as the government has said for years. He actually apologized for never doing any of his own research to figure out what really was marijuana, and that it wasn't as bad as, cocaine and crack and other things. So he's actually become a major supporter of legalization of marijuana, as many Americans are actually now. Medical marijuana has actually proven to help people for various ailments and pain or nausea or whatever it may be, but it's actually been proven, since it's become legal in some states, it actually has boosted the economy of the states that have legalized it. Marijuana has many different things in it, and I won't go into detail on that, but there are two primary compounds in marijuana, and it's THC, which is the hallucinogen, which most people smoke weed for, and there's also CBD. What CBD is a drug that's been documented to reduce the effects of seizures, spasms, and several other neurological disorders. It also helps with nausea caused from chemotherapy. Actually, there was an article in Long-Term Living about a 1-year-old girl named Charlotte who had had seizures since the day she was born. By the time she was 4 years old, she was getting hundreds of seizures a day. At last resort, the parents didn't know what to do at this point. They did their own research and found that marijuana had actually been said that it would help muscle spasms and different stuff. So they actually went to a medicinal place, got medicinal marijuana, and gave it to her. From the first dose, she was actually able to sit with her mother for hours without one episode, which is something neither the daughter had seen or felt, and neither the mother had been able to hold her daughter for that long since she was born, with one dose. There's actually nursing homes in Israel that actually allow their Parkinson's patients to actually smoke weed on a regular, because they've actually seen dramatic effects on the tremors that they have. The main issue that I've seen that is over medical marijuana is actually regulation. Per an article in the Scientific American, the main problem is marijuana hasn't been evaluated by the FDA. It hasn't had proper warning labels and information or reports on adverse effects. It hasn't been monitored for mold or pesticides or other. The problem with that is this. The reason why organic foods actually even came into play is because it's supposed to be without pesticides, which means any food that you go and pick up at Walmart or Kroger or Target that's not organic, you're eating pesticides. Possible mold. You don't know what farmers are doing, so that's just, we know this. We've been doing it for years. What we also know, how many prescriptions do people take a year that don't really know what every single chemical is in the drug that they're taking that has been FDA approved, that pharmaceutical companies and your doctor have no problem pushing you. No idea. And you won't know the adverse effects when you add in this medicine with that medicine until you fall out. So it's been going on for years. They do know the adverse effects, and if you've seen the commercials I'll give you this pain pill or this medication for depression, but yet you might feel homicidal. Well, we know there's adverse effects. It hasn't been proven yet that there's really any adverse effects. Dr. Gupta actually has said that while we don't really know the adverse effects of marijuana completely, we do know that it's proven to help, and we also know that there hasn't been any proven overdoses or abuse to it or addiction problems. There's actually a drug, it's called Marinol, that is actually basically the alternative, to marijuana. It's actually a man-made form of cannabis, which is marijuana. It's just chemically induced and created. But per the patients that have actually had both marijuana for the treatment and Marinol actually doesn't work as well as marijuana does. And actually, I went to a website called rx.list.com, which is actually a website that tells you drugs, effects of them, what it includes, what the treatment is for. And it actually says that the side effects of Marinol is nausea, vomiting, and stomach pain, which is oddly enough the reason why most people are taking it to avoid from chemotherapy or whatever pain, any of that. They're actually making it for something that it basically does to you anyway. While the benefits of medical marijuana are abundant, it also seems to be boosting economies. In a recent article in the Reason magazine, legislation has actually